Hello, friends. Today we're going to talk about a gentle approach to rewiring your brain, restoring your body. And we're going to look at it from Christian perspective to healing places in your body that have experienced fatigue, stress, and trauma. Maybe answering the question of why does my body feel like this? What's wrong with me? Do I have any problems or struggles in my faith? If you're anything like me, maybe you've tried all the right things. I was doing all the supplements, nutrition, movement, resting, praying, believing God, and doing all these different practices. And yet, if you still experience that sense of like your body's just not working, exhausted, foggy, even shut down, I want to explore this journey with you inside. And you're going to, in the next couple episodes, even begin to hear a little bit more of my story and journey down this road. And this particular time, we're going to look at specifically kind of that chronic fatigue, burnout, nervous system overwhelm, those places of why isn't this getting better? And many times, if you've been in that place, you might experience even blaming yourself or having the sense that others are blaming you. I know I experienced that. And I've heard from many, many people who experience that place of, if I'm not healing, then it must be something wrong with me. A place of lack of faith or belief or all those different things. And I want to offer a little bit of a different perspective today, and hopefully one that can bring some relief, understanding, and some hope. And at the end of the day, this isn't about pushing harder or even having more faith. It's about understanding this place of the way that God has wired you, of your brain and your body, and the way that they respond to long-term stress, to trauma, and to different places that actually make healing possible, but also can trap healing in the body. And we're going to just set that stage that ultimately, at the end of the day, safety is the core message. The brain and your body's primary role are protection first. And this really is what helps keep stress and trauma wired into your system. When we have stress and trauma at different ages or different times in our life and they didn't get resolved, I like to say it's kind of like apps in your phone or your computer, and it's just running the show in the background. If you've ever had too many apps open on your phone and you notice the battery starts slowing down or things just don't start responding, you close out all the apps, hit the reset, and everything's running smooth again. But the thing is, your brain doesn't have that capacity to just simply shut it down. It needs to have a message that says to those moments and those memories, even if they're long ago, it has to have a message that says, this is closed. And here's the thing, if we at any point in time had chronic stress or chronic trauma or chronic messages sent to us, what begins to happen is the brain starts switching into survival patterns. It starts just adapting that pattern. Your cells in your body even adapt patterns called cellular danger response, CDR, that the body actually begins to form a pattern in it to help protect and keep everything safe, even if the danger has been completed. And those patterns can stay active long after the danger is gone. That's why years later, you can go, how is that still affecting me? I don't even think about it anymore. But you can have similar patterns or responses as something that happened years ago. Now, I have so many examples to give on that front. But today we just want to talk about how the brain and the nervous system work and some just practical things you can do to move through that. Wherever you are on that journey, I believe this is going to help. And then we're going to actually share some of my journey a little in the next couple of episodes, because it's helpful when things get personal and helpful to hear someone got through this, someone got to the other side. And that is such an important piece of everyone's journey, is we need to know, is there hope? And I just want to share with you that there is hope wherever you are on that journey. I believe that God has created you to heal. He has wired you to heal, but he's also wired us for protection. And we need both of those things to be working together and not against each other. Here are some elements that you're going to hear that your nervous system, brain, learns through repetition. And it also learns through emotional responses. So repetition and emotional responses. So what usually happens is we have negative emotional experiences and our brain begins repeating those over and over again to try to create a resolution. And what that does is it repeats and creates new neural pathways and nervous system responses in our body. We begin living out of that place. And this can show up in your life as chronic fatigue, intense brain fog, low motivation, feeling either wired or tired, feeling like you need rest, but never feeling restored. Ooh, that one was always hard. Like I'm just always resting, but never being restored. These are things that you might, try eating all the things. You might try caffeine. You might try sleeping or resting. You might try those different places. But if those stories are still kind of going and they're still existing inside, then they're in this repetition cycle connected with an emotional space. The good news is that we can rewire. The neuroplasticity of the brain allows us to rewire our brain to have new neuro responses, new responses from our brain to our body, that nervous system response. That is the beautiful. So here's the thing. I want to say why prayer and rest alone don't always resolve the problem, or even nutritional components. Now, I'm a big fan of all of them. Okay. So when I say these things don't work, I'm not saying they don't work, and I'm not saying that they're not important. Okay. I want to really make that clear. I believe that prayer can heal. I believe that rest can heal. I believe that nutrition can heal. And when we begin combining some of these pieces together, we get a really powerful solution. If that core sense of safety is not in place, what happens is that we do all these things, that message is still playing inside, internally. And so what we have is we often are even praying out of that place of fear and chronic stress. Sometimes we're even responding, we're resting, physically resting, but we're not internally at rest. And I think of Hebrews 4, where God says, they did not enter the promised land because they couldn't enter into my rest. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that before, but I have, where I feel like, I'm sleeping and napping and physically resting, but I am not at rest. Conversely, I've experienced moments where I've worked very hard days, but yet I have felt at rest on the inside. When you feel at rest on the inside, no matter what you do, you can have a rejuvenated experience and energy. When you're not at rest on the inside, it's continually draining your energy. And so if you feel like your body just feels stuck in a cycle, maybe it's even weight gain is a cycle sometimes of the body holding on to stress and not releasing it. So it's a sign of a chronic fatigued metabolism, if you will, and not able to release that weight or release and move things through. And these places, it's not your body's fault, and it's not a place you want to be mad at your body. But oftentimes, stress and trauma can get stored in the body, and it's not always as logical as you might think. You might declare the truth. You might even really fully believe it in all of your being. But if your nervous system is responding to an old danger cue, an old story, then that's ultimately what is running the show sometimes. Okay. And so sometimes healing requires working with our body, not just our brain. I was studying the healing stories of Jesus recently, just working my way through the gospel. And I thought, even for someone who's blind to experience their eyes fully, He has to completely rewire your brain to not overwhelm your entire nervous system in order to make sure that he doesn't want to go blind again. And Jesus is so phenomenal when he heals the entire experience of that healing. And sometimes in the slower healing journeys that I know many of you have walked through, is there's so much more happening under the surface than just simply the physical healing. There's a brain retraining that's happening. There's a response to the world. Our response to stress, our response to things is affecting everything. And as we heal those responses in our nervous system, everything begins to heal and things begin to shift. And so I really want to say, if your body hasn't healed yet, or a different area of your mind and heart haven't healed yet, it's not a spiritual failure. What if there's more to the depth of the journey that God is bringing into your world that will actually sustain and carry the healing so much longer than you could have if there was an instant healing? I know for me, I experienced multiple instant healings that just God did it and it was healed. And in a couple instances, that issue came back because the deeper spaces on the inside of me couldn't, I don't want to say like sustain it, but those deeper nervous system wirings deep inside of me that were not in the front of my brain. They weren't thoughts about faith or life, but they were deep places that were stored in there, that through the deeper work, those issues didn't come back. And so, we can't always explain every instance of healing. I believe that when healing takes place, it's a beautiful thing, whether it's instantaneously or a journey. And wherever you are in that, I just want to honor that there is a beautiful journey in both cases. And Jesus is with you in every single moment, wherever you are. Some of my most beautiful moments were when Jesus was with me in the depths of my pain, not always on the height of every mountain, but he walks with us through the valleys. We come back to neuroplasticity. That's the rewiring of the brain and how that actually is a hopeful place, because after we've had repetition running and those chronic stories running, this is where hope comes in, is that neuroplasticity means that our brain can actually learn new patterns. And when it's stuck in a limbic system loop or limbic system dysfunction, that's kind of like our alarm is going continually. What we get to do is begin to learn new patterns, to send a new pattern to it. Sometimes we want to interrupt that pattern by using our body, because our brain is also listening to our body. And what was wired through stress originally can actually be rewired through safety. So when we have little triggers, one tool is what can happen. We can physically, mentally, emotionally, even with sound, we can clap, we can snap, we can do something to help create a pattern in our brain and then rewire a core sense of safety. Even just doing a hand on the heart and doing a little bit of tapping helps rewire that core sense of safety. We're not forcing or even trying to say, come on, declare by faith, this is going to happen. What happens there is you usually turn on your limbic system even more, saying this issue is bad, I better fight it, and turn on the alarm even more. It's a fascinating thing how the brain works. So Romans 12:2 is really that the transformation of your whole being comes in that rewiring of your brain. And in Isaiah 40, verse 31, it says, you will run and not grow weary. Your strength will be renewed. And I just want to highlight that because, oh, Lord, that is such a powerful piece. Your strength will be renewed, not demanded of you, not commanded of you, but your strength is meant to be renewed. The neuroplasticity of your brain is that renewing built into the creation and the way that God has created you. That space in your nervous system, it wants to get back into safety. But when we put demand or command it to try to get into that, it's almost like it hides back out again. Gentleness, right? God's kindness leads us into repentance. Think about his kindness and your kindness to your nervous system and to your brain. And so I want to just share a very simple, very practical retraining process when there are those places that, whether they trigger us into a high mode or they trigger us into that fatigue shutdown or they perpetuate the issue, the very first step is always awareness, becoming aware, just noticing your body, not trying to fix it, not judging it, not commanding it or demanding it. Just notice what happens. When does that fatigue deepen? When does that trigger happen? When does that shutdown happen? When does that stress happen? Becoming aware oftentimes is the most challenging place if we've been in something for a long time because it's so normal. And so practicing becoming aware. And then we just gently slow your breathing. Just bring your breath in a little bit longer exhale. That tells the nervous system it's safe to soften. Just inhale, safe to soften. We're just aware of what's happening and we're communicating, I'm in a safe place. And then this might seem like an interesting place to go, but just think of one thing you can be grateful for. One small thing that's maybe steady or supportive or peaceful, or that you can feel that sense of appreciation for. Just notice that feeling in your body. And what does that do? That begins to turn that alarm off. That loop that's been happening pauses the loop, starts to retrain the brain, rewire the system, calms the nervous system. And you might even put your hand on your heart, like I mentioned earlier, do a little bit of gentle tapping and just saying, I'm safe in this moment. And that begins to retrain the brain, retrain the body. It's safe to start to associate with peace and with presence and with healing over time. And you begin rewiring your responses and training your nervous system to say, it's safe to actually embody safety. And it's from that place that we actually get to experience the safety that God provides. Because many times in the journey of healing, it feels like God's been distant because we feel like he hasn't healed us, but he is always with you. He is always there. And when we try to outperform or demand or create healing, oftentimes those parts of us kind of go into hiding and feel almost afraid of him. And I'm going to share a little bit more about that in the next coming episodes, a little bit more intentionally. But I wanted to say many times you don't need more effort. You've put in so much effort. You have tried and done so many things to heal. But sometimes what you need is just the environment that your system can actually sense and feel that core place of safety, and moving into safety from gentleness and repetition, and then experiencing that in your body. So that's that feeling sense, that is experiencing that emotion. And whether you're not able to do anything or whether you're fully functional and able to do your life, but these things hold you back, wherever you are on that spectrum, anchor in moments of safety, do it with gentleness, repeat it regularly, and hold that feeling in your body. And the more you do that, you create a new normal. And that is the beautiful part. And I know for many people, just chronic issues, fatigue or stress are often rooted in these places of physical and emotional stress patterns. And so this gentle place can kind of hold relief for your whole system, that it's not your fault. And there is hope. There is something that you can do about it. Especially for Christians, for those who are believing God and walking with him and know that he can heal, there's this other layer where journey of healing becomes personal, that God is in this journey and our faith becomes intersected in the journey of physical, emotional healing and our walk with him. We often can even question, is he here in the moment? Is he here with me? Is he seeing that? Why isn't he doing something? And like I said, that part of my story and this story will deserve its own space because it just deserves that space to breathe. And for today, I just want to lean into that space that your brain and body aren't broken and they have the whole capacity to heal. Most of the time, they've been responding to what they've lived through, your brain-body connection. And you notice that I'm not necessarily saying your mind-body connection. That, again, could be another episode. I know mind-body is very in right now. I would just gently put these into your mind being, this is the part that I control, that I think about. This is the part that I can declare, I can choose to believe, and all of that. Whereas your brain is wired. Neurons that wire together, they fire together, they're creating pathways in it. Your limbic system can get stuck in a loop of setting an alarm that goes directly into your body. Your nervous system is connected directly to your brain. That's why your body experiences the experience of your brain. That's why retraining your brain and also doing somatic exercises is so important for that feedback loop, that connection. And your brain and body want safety and want to heal, even when it doesn't always look like it. And so if this resonates with you, I want you just to know that, number one, your symptoms, they might make more sense than you know. And I want you to know that you're not alone. I have just seen many people walk through this and through the healing journey, myself included. Spent many years on the healing journey, physically, mentally, and emotionally, in all of it. And in the next episode, I'm going to share more of my personal journey with burnout and chronic fatigue and how that healing unfolded. And then we're going to talk about that dynamic with God and what that looked like. And so if you're ready for deeper support, I've created several spaces where we bring together these elements of the nervous system, brain retraining, the way that science integrates with faith, and bringing in Jesus directly into the middle of that. And I just come back to you. There's nothing wrong with you, but healing is possible, and there is hope for you. And I just want to release that hope into you right now. Your brain and your body, they want the healing. And I just release that healing over you right now in the name of Jesus. And I'll see you in the